Well, I thought I would do a little preamble to this video. What I found was I bought this uh, Akai GX-F91, which is a top of the line, close to the top of the line cassette deck from the early 1980s. I owned one of these actually for about 30 years. I bought one when I was overseas working in a military PX in Germany, in Lahr, Germany, and I worked in the hi-fi shop there selling tax-free audio gear to the troops overseas. And I brought one of these back from Europe to Canada here, and owned it. Loved the deck, fantastic deck, and then like everybody else got sucked into the digital revolution. But I actually used the tape deck right up until about, I bought it in 83, I guess. 93, 2003, it was about 2008, I think, that I sold it. And because it stopped working at the time. And back then I wasn't as ambitious, and I didn't quite honestly think I would ever use cassettes again. But now I've since got back into tape decks, and I've got some NACs, and I've fixed some NACs and Nakamichis and Pioneer decks and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so one of these came up on Facebook Marketplace for a reasonable price that I thought, with known issues. So I thought I would try to tackle it because I've had some moderate success with some Nakamichi tape decks. I think I've done 4 of them now. CR3As and 3-head decks and a couple of LX3s, plus a whole bunch of other. I just finished an Iowa tape deck. But this one is in a different league. And what I found was I went on YouTube to find out, see if there's any repair videos out there. There's 1,000 videos out here showing this, the door opening and, what a cool tape deck it is and all that kind of stuff. But zero tape decks on anybody trying to fix these or maintain them. And so I thought I would, at least try and see how far I can get with this thing, and see if I can actually get it back working and everything. But I've run into some pitfalls. So far, here's the story. It'll step into the video tapes of me trying to fix this, and hopefully it'll be helpful for somebody out there that's trying to fix one of these things, because man, there's nothing out there. And this is a bear. It's so densely packed with electronics, trying to access the various belts that you need to change, and the motor mechanism for this. It's all under these massive PCBs on both sides. So it's a challenge. So I'm not giving up, but here's where we are at so far. Watch the video, and there's a number of struggles that I'm having, and I would love it if somebody out there has some first-hand experience fixing these things that could give me some advice on some of the problems I'm having with it. So thank you. Okay, here we got the Akai GX-F91. Now this is a tape deck I have a lot of history with, because I bought one when I was in Germany in 1983, 84, probably 83, when I used to sell these things overseas in a military PX. And I had that tape deck for nigh on probably 30 years, and loved it to pieces. And then for some dumb reason, when I got out of audio for a short while, I sold it, and always regretted it. And the one I had, actually, it wasn't working anymore. I think the belts had gone. And at the time, I wasn't as mechanically handy as I am now. And so I had one of these come up on Facebook Marketplace, actually, and it was only on for a short while, and I scooped it up. And here it is. And lo and behold, it's got problems. So I'm looking for people with some experience in fixing these, not I'm going to hopefully do it myself, like I did a few Nakamichis and just recently an Iowa deck. I've got a stuck tape. The transport mechanism is working just fine. So I got it on relay or play. Now I'm going to do fast forward. Play binds. You can hear it grinding or just humming. And the eject mechanism doesn't work. I can, while it's trying to eject, I can remove this plate. And it looks like the head assembly, when I hit stop, I hit eject, it doesn't lower all the way. You can see it pops back up. And I don't want to force anything, but it's got a XL2S tape in it, 90-minute tape, rewinding it. So I'm trying to get it to eject, because what I want to do is pull out the assembly and clean up all the, it's probably sticky grease syndrome, which is common with the Nakamichis in this. When I got it, the door was closed. I pushed the button, the door comes out, and all the controls are behind this panel. It actually it sort of rotates and then slides underneath. So when I powered it up, it actually closed, but now I can't get it to open anymore. So I'm not sure if hopefully they didn't pull against the gears here too. Well, they probably did that. So there you can see partly how it works. So I think the belt is gone on this thing. Oh, there we go. I kicked it out. I think the belt is going on it. That's why. So I can get it to work. So you can see, the belt counter and everything's working. All the controls are working, save the eject, just because I think the mechanism is stuck. So what I want to do is I want to eject it, get the tape out, so I can pull the assembly through and then clean it all up and do a belt change, both on the motor here, which I think is slipping. And so I'm just wondering if anybody has any experience with these decks. I do have the service manual for it, but it's of course early 80s kind of a manual, which really doesn't help you on the mechanical side. They're more geared for electrical and circuit problems. So anyway, it's in beautiful condition. I hope to restore it. And if anybody is sort of experienced with this deck, I would like to hear some suggestions on how to pull this out without wrecking the mechanism, and so I can start getting into it and cleaning it out. Beautiful deck, man. I love this deck. It's got automatic calibration for any tape you put in it. It'll lay down test tones and calibrate the bias and everything. Like I say, I had one for many, many years and loved it to pieces. I do have a bunch of Nakamichis now, but this to me is I had the RX505, sold that, bought a bunch of CR3As and LX3s. And yeah, this would be my keeper deck. So let me know if you have any good suggestions on how to approach this repair. Thanks. Bye. So here's there's a plate that covers the transport mechanism. So I've taken the top off on the GXF91 or GXF91. And there's this plate that covers. And what I plan on doing is to remove the plate. Hopefully I can get the flywheel and I can actually rotate the flywheel, because what it looks like is the transport mechanism here is stopped partway through the cycle and is not in the complete lowered condition. Probably due to sticky grease is a common ailment of these. So rather than try to force the block down, what I'm going to try and do is rotate the flywheel and see if maybe it'll cycle this thing into the off position where the heads are dropped down, and then I can power it up and then use the motorized eject, because it looks like it's trying to. This isn't lowering enough to get out of the way of the assembly, which binds it and prevents it from opening. So if I can get that far, then at least I can get the transport mechanism all the way out of here, I think. And then I can start looking at cleaning the where the sticky grease is probably preventing this from lowering smoothly all the way. So let's try that. Well, what I tried to do was I powered it up. I took this plate off here. I could see the flywheel in there. Tried to rotate that, thinking it might back off and rotate the assembly down. It does not. I think that's tied to this loading motor up here, which you can feel start to spin when you hit the eject, but then as soon as it binds, it stops. And you can see it trying to lower the tape head assembly, which is stuck up inside, but it doesn't lower it enough for it to clear the assembly here, and then that's when it binds. And I tried just gently trying to hold it down without trying to torque on it. I don't want to bend anything out of play or anything like that, but it seems to be quite stuck in there. So I'm not sure if it's sticky grease that's holding these some cams or the assembly that rotates down with some worm gear or something like that that might be causing it to not travel the full way. So one of the things I'm thinking is dousing it in isopropyl alcohol to try to, unstick the sticky grease. But I don't want to do that. To me, that's just too violent of a tactic at this stage. So I'm going to go back to the service manual here and try and look at the disassembly of this. Maybe, just maybe, I can actually disassemble it without having to release this. I doubt it. I think that tape has to come out before I can actually release this whole assembly. I might have to take the faceplate off, some of the bottom plate off, which of course is going to be major surgery. So we'll see if anybody that I made a call for ideas for anybody that's worked on these, just to see if anybody has any techniques that work before I try anything too drastic. And I'm going to sleep on it tonight, read the manual, the service manual, see if I can glean anything from there as to how to remove the transport assembly and fix this mechanism without bunging it up. So I want a working deck at the end of this. So anybody with ideas out there, let me know. And maybe you have a better technique than I do. This is new to me, so we'll have to take this one slow and easy. Okay, so here's what it's doing. As you can see when I try to eject that this partially drops down, and what it's supposed to do is clear the bottom of this this thing here, I think. It actually doesn't come out all the way out of the tape. And when I hit eject, it lowers, but it doesn't lower the heads completely out of the front of the tape here. So that's preventing it from opening. So here I'm going to push the eject button. You can see it drops, but you can see the heads are still stuck up inside the cassette. And that's preventing the door from opening. So play mechanism doesn't work. Rewind, well, it's fully rewound, but fast forward works, and rewind works, although albeit very slow. And you can see when it drops, it's still not dropping far enough where the heads are allowing it to clear the cassette, so it's not allowing it to open. So what's happening is this whole assembly is not dropping far enough to allow the eject mechanism. The belt is good. You can see the belt here. The belt goes onto this big nylon sort of flywheel down here, which you may yeah, you can probably see it there. And the belt is in good shape, and it looks like it's trying to spin, but what's happening is it's binding on the bottom of the cassette in with the heads that are not dropping far enough. So that is the issue, is getting this mechanism to drop further, and I don't want to push it. I can try. I did try a little bit with, just with this thing, trying to pull it down a bit, but no, it's not going down far enough. See? So if I pull this down, I can get it down a little bit further. Let's try it again. Yeah, see, I don't want to force it. Anyway, that's the issue right now. And when I rewind it, the mechanism, fast forward it, the mechanism does go down a bit. So it's supposed to drop the heads out of the way. And I got a feeling it's just some sticky grease in there that's preventing it. Here, let me do that again. So stop. So when I hit fast forward, you can see the heads drop, but they don't drop far enough. And so the eject mechanism, so I hit the eject and it's not allowing the tape to come out. All right, you just saw what I did with the what I'm experiencing with the drive mechanism here. I'm putting that into abeyance for a while. And the other thing is with the motor, if I power it up, it's not coming back out. So if I power it on and I hit the door, you hear the motor going, so you have to power it off to reset. And if I pull it out gently, it'll close in, but then the motor still runs. And it will not, like it was before, it will not come out. So you can hear the motor spinning in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and pull this board up so I can see the belt. And I got a feeling that belt is what's slipping, or it's just old and tired, or whatever. So it's partially working because it does draw it in, but then the motor doesn't stop. So we gotta see what's going on there. So yeah. Let's try and fix that. Well, I gotta say, this thing is a beast. So I tried to access the motor for here on the top, and of course the service manual is absolutely useless when it comes to any mechanical stuff on these tape decks. It's all got circuits and logic diagrams and everything, but nothing on, there's one little 8 diagram panel to show you how to take the top off, nothing about how to take the transport out or how to gain access to any of they have some good sort of blow up diagrams of how the mechanism works, but not how to actually access it, which is so frustrating. So I tried to lift this board, so I unscrewed all the screws here, but this thing is hard bolted in. A lot of this wiring is sort of in the way, and especially with this back corner over here, I don't know if you can see it on the screen. Let's see there, yeah, right there. This is soldered onto the board, and Yeah, this thing doesn't budge, so I can't even lift it up, or even, and a huge heat sink on the other side here. Um, it's just not practical to pull this thing out without actually doing some serious surgery on this thing. Then I tried to take the faceplate off, but you really need to get this this tape out, because I can't get it around this door, and I think what I need to do is actually move the mechanism out somehow, but then there's this big metal plate here, so I don't even know how I can remove it, or if it comes out the front. I don't think it can come out the front, because you know, it's just it's in there so snug. I can't believe how packed in everything is, and the geometry of trying to pull out the mechanism and access any of the parts that need to be replaced, like the belts, is an absolute gong show on this thing. Man, these guys were wizards. Whoever assembled it and was able to get everything in here packed tightly and working. My hat goes off to them for sure. So I think my next attempt at trying to get this motor belt access, I'm still thinking on how I can get this tape to drop, you know, heads to drop, so I can get the tape out, so that I can have the door open, so that you can sort of at least manipulate the transport mechanism to get it out. Yeah, there's just absolutely zero information in the service manual on how to do any of that, and that's mostly what you're going to end up doing with tape decks like this. I don't know where their heads were back in those days, but certainly they didn't think about the you know, the poor maintenance guy that's going to be fixing it or trying to fix it 20, 30 years later or whatever, or even a month or a year after they buy it, you know, after warranty or whatever. So yeah, no, I'm gobsmacked with this. So the next thing I'm going to try here is to try to access the bottom. But even then, with all these moving door parts and everything, well, let's see what we can do with getting access to through the bottom and see what we can do here. I got a feeling some of these screws here, like these two, are probably for bolting down the transport mechanism, because it's not actually on the bottom plate. So I gotta think that those are the transport, the screws to bolt in the transport from the bottom. And I can't even really see what it does on top. But anyway, we'll figure that one out. And we're going to open up the bottom, and maybe we can see some of the mechanics in there and have access to the belts that pull this door assembly and work that. They do have this tape here on. So this is another reason why I believe this thing has never been opened before I opened up the top. Yeah. Okay, back to time lapse. Man, this is just kicking my butt. So I've opened up the bottom panel, and what am I faced with? A huge PCB that's blocking me to get into the mechanism that actually does the pulling on the door. You can see the spring and the wires that are pulled on when this thing retracts and goes back in. But even worse, and I'd read about this, is there's a battery, I guess, that's soldered to this PCB on the bottom here, and you can see this big mess of corrosion, basically, where I think the battery leaked on the other side. So I don't know. This may end up being a parts unit, but I mean, everything is powering on, working good. I think this is the memory for the auto tuning on this machine. But yeah, I tell you, I'm just gobsmacked as to how to get. And of course, this is a mess of wires. So maybe I can somehow unscrew this PCB and gain access there to see, and hopefully it'll move out far enough that I can actually see it. We're going to have to clean up this as best we can, and I can maybe wire some shunts between some of these if any of the traces are gone. Doesn't look like the traces are bad, but it's going to need some cleaning up for sure. You can see the corrosion mess, and I can only imagine on the other side where the battery is, where it probably blew out. So yeah, let's see if we can pull this board out somehow. Looks like there's a screw here, screw over here, up there, and there, and maybe we can sort of pull that out so we can at least see behind. You can see the bottom of the drive mechanism, the belt's there. It's looking pretty good. It's looking not too bad. I can pull that plate out, but holy smokes, this thing is a jigsaw puzzle to the 9th degree, 10th degree. So probably biting off more than I can chew, but I'm this far in, so let's see what we can do. Okay, there's that battery that you can see where it basically blew out on the one end. And it's just soldered in place in 2 parts, so I don't think that's as serious as I originally made it out to be. We'll have to clean that up, of course, and maybe reconnect some of these traces if any of them have been burned out. We'll have to put a multimeter on that and see where the traces go, and if they are connected, we might have to put some shunt wires between some of these traces, but I think that's recoverable, certainly. And the biggest disappointment, though, is here's the mechanism that opens and closes this door, and you can see the one belt that you have to change is buried deep inside of here, behind this motor, onto this motor, and there's a big plate in here, and of course you just see the jumble of wires there. So very daunting indeed. So we may end up having to just live with, which is because I owned this deck for 30 years, the same deck, and then I sold it regrettably. But you know, 90% of the time I never use the door. I always let it just slide in, so I may end up having to live with that and not concentrate on trying to screw up everything on this board, trying to pull that motor out and get the belt changed. And the belt doesn't look all that bad. It's just, I don't know, maybe that has something to do with it. I doubt it, but God, you know, where do you even start? So there is this little switch here, looks like, that makes contact when the door, I guess, is supposed to it's fully pulled in. Yeah, and I heard there are replacements for this battery, so I can I'll dig onto the forums and find out what the replacement battery is, and desolder that, put a decent one in, and try my best to clean up the board on the other side. I mean, it's not leaking anymore. Whatever damage has been done is done. It's not like it's, I don't think it's going to leak any more than what it already has. So that we got some time on. And yeah, I got to redo this linkage. So I'm going to put the board back in until I can get that part. I'm going to take a picture of that and get the part number. It's a Varta 260 whatever. Anyway, I saw some things online that show it. There are some orange caps in here. They are brand name ones, so BP, I guess. So I don't know if they're the dreaded orange caps that are noted in the Nakamichi line as failure prone. But God, I mean, like, this thing is so dense. You can see all the orange caps here, 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 all over the place. I mean, those are easy enough to change if I can, you know, get the right sizes and all that stuff. But man, this thing should be worth $20,000 with all the density of the electronics and how tightly packed this tape deck is. Holy crap! This should have been 10 times bigger. Anyway, enough whining. We'll move on and work on the transport, I guess, until I can get that battery replaced. So in the meantime, I'll put that board back and order that part if I can, and see where we can go from there. What I'm considering now is, if I can get a pointer here and show you, you got the two capstan holes right here, one there, one there. And what I was thinking of doing is taking some side cutters, cutting there, and then raising, trying to pull this flap out to allow this to try to cut away that flap to allow this part here, sort of cut that out so that it would allow because that's the only place it's binding is on the heads here, because they're not dropping far enough. And if I can make a cavity here, then maybe I can get that tape out. But that is really extreme. I'd rather, if somebody had a better technique, I don't want to push down too hard on this mechanism, because then I'll be setting everything at like the azimuth and all kinds of tight tolerances on the heads, and I'll end up with just a crappy sounding deck. And I do not want to put any stress on the heads or anything. So, gosh, this is a really tough one. I've never run into something like this before. Well, we made a major milestone in that I finally got the cassette removed. Not entirely sure how I did it, but basically what I did was I kind of lifted up on the assembly as I was pulling eject, and I was using this to lift up on the tape a little bit, and then it kind of partly came over, and I just was able to just gently pull it out, and now the mechanism is working just fine. So of course this one has a motorized eject and putting in the cassette. So you can see it's now functioning correctly. And I dare not put another tape into it until I open her up and give her a thorough cleaning. What's happening is, so on the rewind works, fast forward works, but play makes this whining noise. I dare not leave it whining too long because I don't want to burn any motors or anything out. So I'm not sure how the mechanism treats rewind versus treating play, but play is definitely binding. All the other transport mechanisms work, and including the eject now, as long as the tape is in it, because I think this is still not dropping down far enough. As far as the tape that was in it, it looks like it's in great shape. It's an XL2S chrome normal bias, or XL1S normal bias tape, and I don't see anything wrong with the tape, so the tape is good. I'll put it in another cassette deck, and it was rewinding and fast forwarding just fine, so I have no doubt and it looks like it's just brand new. They just had, in fact, one of the tabs is still just poked in here, so looks in great shape. Hasn't even got a label on it yet. So we'll play that on another tape and just verify that that's working. But yeah, so at least I've got it to the point where I can eject this, leave that out, and I think I need to leave that out in order to remove the transport mechanism. Not sure how I'm going to do that yet. So if any of those folks out there that have worked on this one know how to pull this transport assembly out, I would like to know. Interesting to know, while the power's on, the belt down there is spinning, you can see. And you can see the capstan is spinning. And when I rewind, you can see that the hub there spins for until it realizes there's no tape in there. On fast forward, it'll just sit there and fast forward forever. You can see the counter going. So the hubs are spinning there. But again, when I push play, all I get is that whining noise. So I don't know if there's another clutch assembly, another belt that, or a tire in there that needs to be replaced, and to do the actual drive mechanism. Yeah. So where to go from here, we'll figure that one out. There you go. Okay, we have a little bit of success here getting the face panel off, and now now I see how we can access the transport. I hope that this just comes out when I undo the screws on the bottom here. So it was a bugger trying to get this off, because 3 of the screws that hold this faceplate on in the front are actually underneath this this door here. So I had to pull the door out, because of course the mechanism isn't properly working. So I was able to pull it out and then access those screws that hold the bottom pieces in on this. And so I managed to get that done. And then of course you have this light, the blue light here, that lights up the power bar here. So got that sorted, and now I've got that accessed. So we're going to clean this out. We'll clean all the dust and everything out of this thing, and use some air to blow that clear. And the bottom of this was just gunked with dust and dirt and everything, so I've cleaned that out with some isopropyl alcohol, and I still got to do a nice little scrub with soapy water here just to get it all clean. So there's the faceplate off. No worse the wear, but it was tricky to get the all these screws. These three screws were really hard to see because of that door placement, but got her, and now I've got that opened up. And then I'm going to have to take the bottom off now to access the screws that are holding the transport mechanism in. So hopefully we can start cleaning out some of the trouble spots in here. If it's sticky grease, I mean, there's some grease right there that was on the edge here from this the power extension button. So yeah, a little more progress today, and we'll see how we can manipulate this into working again. All right, folks, I've pretty much given up on this. I really wanted to get this thing working, and it's just too complicated for myself. So what I did was I took it down to, as per the service manual, down to opening up the the cabinet, and getting the transport mechanism so that I could manipulate it a bit, but I didn't monkey with anything. Basically, this is the same condition in that I got it. I'm pretty sure it had never been opened before, just by the condition of the screws. So any of the screw scars that are on it are solely mine. And everything I did, I basically filmed. So you can have a look at it and you'll just see that I unjammed the tape out of there without doing anything too aggressive. I just got lucky on one of the eject cycles, and by pulling up on the tape a little bit, I got the tape out. But the eject feature still works, and the door quasi works. It works in one way. Basically, it closes, and make a liar out of it. Yeah, and then it just hums. So I'm not sure if there's some sort of a switch that has to be engaged to shut off the motor that's trying to pull it in. So once again, once I opened it up, I realized it was just too much deck for me. I'm just a tinkerer, so I know when to bow out. All of the features, controls, and everything work with the exception of play. So rewind. It'll rewind for a second. You can see the hub spinning, but then it senses no tape. Fast forward, it'll just sit there spinning. You can see there's no tape in it. Play, you can hear it. It's just, I don't want to play it too long to burn out any motors or anything. So I think there's a gear wheel or something jammed in there. I didn't want to take apart the transport. That's beyond my capabilities, so I left it as is. I just was looking for anything overt. Belt is intact. The eject belt obviously is working, and then the pull-in mechanism, for whatever reason. When I owned this deck for the 30+ years that I had it, I always just left this open, except for when I was away for long periods or whatever. But you can manually pull it out and put it in. But anyway, it seems like all the functions. I dare not put another tape in it in case it gets jammed or whatever. But that is the condition that I'm going to let this thing go at. Just because it needs somebody that knows what they're doing, and who's got the proper test gear and all that kind of stuff, which I do not. I can just do basic unjamming and belt changes on more simpler mechanisms. This thing is just crammed with electronics, as you probably saw in the previous parts of this video. And yeah, otherwise it's in great shape. There's just a little bit of a mark here with a little bit of a gold, silver paint. I think that can go away. It's not like a deep scratch or anything. It just seems to be like a scuff mark. Otherwise, it's in pretty darn good condition all the way around. It's got gold connectors on the back. Everything is as is. I think it's just, for sitting for so many years, and the previous owner, I think, put a tape in it, jammed it, and then just sort of said, ooh, I can't deal with this, and just let it sit for years and years. So I took my shot at it, and I'm going to leave it to somebody that's a little more gifted than I am. So, thank you for watching.